Burned, a Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction Part 22. Today's theme is Cuddles. If you have not heard the previous 21 parts of this story, you can find a link to them in the description box below. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel to stay up to date on parts of your favorite fanfiction. Now then, let's get burned. Cat Noir could tell something was wrong by the way Ladybug stood. Sure, she had perfect posture as usual, but something was off. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked, fingers hovering above the switch for the warehouse's fight simulator. "Yeah," Ladybug said. "Light it up." He sighed and turned the system on, fighting the instinct that something was wrong. He could trust her. She was a smart girl. He took his place across the way, anticipating how she'd start. Chances were she'd use her yo-yo to close the distance. Then, here she comes. He braced himself, choosing to take her head-on this time instead of dodging. Cat tightened his grip and raised his arms, ready to strike. Cat tightened his grip and raised his arms, ready to strike. Except that's not what happened. Ladybug didn't stop swinging. At least, not on purpose. She collided straight into him, launching him backwards onto his rump as he caught her in his arms. "Ladybug?" he said, bewildered. "Sorry." She shook her head in confusion. "I'm just a little lightheaded, that's all." He knit his eyebrows together. "No, not that's all. We can't spar when you're like this." "No, I'll be fine. I just need a minute." "Ladybug, I said no. Respect that. I won't fight with you, both physically and with your protests." She opened her mouth to respond but decided otherwise. She knew he had the moral high ground for this. Taken aback by how warm it was. "We need to get you home," he said softly. "Not yet. I can still—" she began. She couldn't fight his arms off her. "Come with me." Cat picked her up and took her to the corner. There were mats meant for sparring, and long, fluffy towels as an added luxury. He set her down gently and wrapped her, kissing her forehead before excusing himself. It only took 6 minutes to get to the nearest corner store, but he didn't stop for the usual photos and kind smiles as he checked out. A grand total of 15 minutes after he left her, Cat Noir returned with cold medicine and a sports drink. Ladybug was still there, wrapped up in the corner he'd left her in. After a bit of coercion, she took the meds and had, somewhat forcefully, drunken a cup's worth of electrolyte and sugar water. Now she was curled up beside him, resting her head on his shoulder with his arm supporting her back. It wasn't how he imagined his first cuddle session with her to go, but hey, he'd take what he could get. He sat there, unentertained and in a rough position for nearly 2 hours while she slept, shifting slowly now and then so his limbs wouldn't fall asleep. By the time she stirred herself awake, he'd entered a catharsis, his mind lighter than it'd been for ages. Nothing mattered at the moment. Cat Noir was at peace. "Did I fall asleep?" Ladybug murmured. "Couple of hours. Are you worried about being late for something?" "No." "And you stayed the whole time?" "Yeah." "Oh." She turned her face into his shoulder, grabbing his arm as she pressed closer. He thought he heard her mumble something, but it wasn't clear. "What was that?" he asked. "You smell nice." "Thanks." "And you're warm." "It's the black. We're getting plenty of sunlight from the skylights." Your hair is fluffy too. He smiled, knowing the medicine was getting to her. Going for a second round? Just a little while longer. I'll stand up in a few. Take your time. It was another half-hour of sunlight-lit peace before she stirred again, entangling her legs with his as she stretched herself awake. It was only a few minutes in her mind, but he knew better than to tease. She looked significantly better already, but it was nearly time for another dose of medicine anyway. "What are you doing?" she asked, noticing him pulling out his phone. He'd been able to de-transform and retransform while she was passed out to grab it. Getting you an Uber. I don't need one. Would you like me to carry you all the way home instead? That's not necessary. Then take the Uber. You're too sick to jump around on rooftops. I'm not. If you beat me in an arm wrestle, I'll let you go. She huffed at his ultimatum, knowing she wouldn't beat him like this. Okay, fine. But only if you leave before they get here. Of course. And I promise not to check where the car delivers you to. She smiled, not questioning his loyalty. Okay, I trust you. True to his word, he left before her. He didn't like it, sure, but the rules they set with their masks bound him. Perhaps there would be a day where he could escort her home, but not today. Instead, he left with a warm shoulder and tingling arm, soft from the time he spent with her. Thank you so much for listening. Part 23 is on its way. In the meantime, you can check out these other videos for more fanfiction. I'll catch you next time.